The streets of Cape Town bore witness to a powerful demonstration this week as members of the Khoi and San communities marched to Parliament, demanding long overdue recognition as South Africa's first people. The demands center on ancestral land rights and the rejection of colonial-era classifications and the call for constitutional compliance, asserting sovereignty rooted in historical jurisprudence already affirmed by South Africa's highest court. At the heart of the protest was a memorandum and a declaration addressed to Parliament insisting that the Khoi and the San's legal identity, heritage and territorial rights be recognized not merely in word but in practice. These calls come amid growing tension over land dispossession and state inaction as the communities reject the lingering legacy of apartheid's colored label and assert their status as the country's original custodians. To unpack these developments and explore what lies ahead, we're now joined by Larry Vari, who's the Senior National Commissioner of the Greater Aboriginal Community Council of Southern Africa, who was amongst those leading the march. Larry, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Take us through the very specific demands on that memorandum.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Yeah, our demands are, we have made 8 demands in the writing. I'll give you the most important ones first. It's to recognize the Khoi and the San as the first indigenous people of South Africa with immediate effect, and restore the Khoisan land rights under the principles affirmed in Richtersveld with immediate effect, legislative and policy reform to ensure restitution. That refers to the Constitutional Court precedent setting case and ruling in 2003. And then the third one, we ask government to demand that they cease all practices, legal, political, or economic, that continue the apartheid legacy of trickery, erasure, and dispossession. Number 4, immediately revoke the TKLA in its current form, save only for the recognition clauses, which must be retained and strengthened. And then number 5, devolve lawmaking power to include Khoisan representation at all levels of state, national, provincial, and local, in accordance with the Constitution and international law. This requires no constitutional amendment, only compliance. And then, of course, we ask for affirmative action, the same as BE action, but specifically for the Khoisan.
Yeah, let's talk about that first demand. What would be the legal, social, political, and economic effect of recognizing the Khoi and the San as the first indigenous people of South Africa?
Well, if we are given the recognition, which the Constitution already does. So what we're saying, the state is a constitution of the Lincoln. The constitutional precedents and the Constitution itself recognize the Khoisan. First of all, if that is done, there will be justice served on the Khoisan people after 31 years of democracy, of which the current government, which the ANC led for 6 consecutive terms and is still leading in the 7th administration, they are maliciously obstructing our constitutional rights. It is no accident. And so once they do that, justice will be served. And we will not have to go to the international community and to ask them to put South Africa under sanctions like the sanctions of apartheid. Because what they are doing now is they have singled us out and applied apartheid against us.
But let's talk about that, because it seems quite trite to say the Khoi and the San are the first indigenous people of Southern Africa. Many would say, why does it need to be characterized as very specifically the first indigenous and not rather just the indigenous people of Southern Africa? Because that itself is a contested question. The Nama make a very similar claim that we too are the first indigenous people of Southern Africa. And of course, if you then consider where the border lines are drawn, that then becomes contentious. Or the Masarwa saying we too are the first indigenous people of Southern Africa. We too are hunter-gatherers here. And of course, if you again consider the border demarcations at the time, it becomes a contentious issue. Why is that the first indigenous part very specifically so important rather than just the indigenous people of Southern Africa?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say the rule of law across the world concerning First Nations has changed for the better for the last several years. In terms of why First Nation status, why are we the first indigenous nation? Because archaeology and DNA proves we are the oldest nation of the world. Our presence in South Africa is no less than 100,000 years, between 100,000 and 25,000 years. Some people say at least 50,000 years. We rest our case on 100,000 years being present here. The Nguni Bantu people comes here about 1,000 years ago. So how do you compare to killing First Nation, to be First Nation, with a difference of 100,000 years?
Okay. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it, Larry, for joining us there. Well, we reached out to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Valenkosi Nihlabisa, but to no avail.